everyone? Are you enjoying the conference so far? Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining this session today. My name is Marini Brown. I serve as Vice Data Platforms and Solutions at BlackRock. I'm a member of the TAG Leadership Council, and so I'm very, very glad to be a part of today's event. Solutions in Atlanta for years. I was just talking to the panelists and the team. I'm a native of Atlanta, so certainly this Atlanta is home, and I know it's special. But we've been here as a company for 4 years. The Aladdin business, so the business that is responsible for providing technology to our clients, was born from data. Through times of crisis and prosperity, we've certainly been asked 2 questions. What data do I own, and where do I own it? And so we're able to answer those questions very easily given our technology and our data. Come on in. And so one of the things that we will talk about today is that topic, and that's exactly why companies from around the world, even those based in Atlanta, rely on Aladdin, our portfolio management software. And so we know that the future of Aladdin in our business will certainly be data, which leads to this being a very timely discussion. So now I will turn it over to Kenneth to introduce our panelists and get us going. Kenneth?
Great, thank you very much, appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. For those of you that I haven't met, my name's Ken Viciana. I'm the VP of Global Data and Analytics Products at TSYS, TSYS. We're part of Global Payments, is our parent company in the fintech space. But we got some good material I make sure we get to. So let's open it up with just brief intros of the panelists, just your name, where you work, and then we'll kind of jump into some content.
Thanks, Ken. My name is Santosh Kudva. I am the Chief Data Officer of the GE Gas Power business. I also have an extended responsibility as a CIO or IT leader for the finance and HR function, covering the CFO and the CHRO. So Gas Power is a $13 billion business making these huge turbines that go into power plants, and then we service them for decades.
Good morning, everyone. Abe Manasrah. I'm the Vice President of Data and Analytics and Chief Data Officer for Tanner Health System, which is a 5-hospital system that serves West Georgia and East Alabama. Our hospitals are pretty much rural hospitals. Wherever we exist, we're the only hospital in town. Just a bit of background, I came from the Chicago area where I worked with academic and community medical centers there, and I love it here in Georgia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Wolf. I work at BlackRock in the asset management space. I've been at BlackRock for about 2 years now, and I currently lead a data strategy and solutions team. As Marini mentioned, I'm an Atlanta native, and so I was excited when BlackRock came to Atlanta, so that it was almost like bringing Wall Street to me, as opposed to me traveling somewhere else. And we do have a sizable and growing office here in Atlanta. It is a technology-focused innovation hub. We call it an iHub, and one of only a handful of BlackRock iHubs globally. So excited to be here today and share a little bit more about what we have going on.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yogs Jayaprakasam. I'm Chief Technology and Digital Officer at Deluxe, which is a Fortune 1000 company that is headquartered in Minneapolis, and the innovation hub and tech hub is in Atlanta. For last several years, we are focused on turning a check printing manufacturing company into a digital payments and data company. In this quarter, Q2 actually, I'm not sharing earnings results here, but we are excited to turn our payments revenue to be the highest revenue compared to all other segments, which is a significant milestone in the transformation journey that we have taken. Data plays a critical role there. So I'm excited to be part of this panel, learn from my fellow panelists and all the questions you will ask. Prior to joining Deluxe, which actually was 1 year back, yesterday was my first anniversary, I used to work for American Express. I was there for 13 years, was part of a lot of their transformation, starting from agile to platform transformation to data. Excited to bring that experience into this conversation as well. Thank you.
Great. Let's give the panel a quick round of applause. Very impressive group. Really looking forward to learning and collaborating with these guys. Just to kind of level set, so we've got executive data leaders. We're all trying to, drive innovation from data, better leverage it as an asset for our organizations. As you guys can see, we've got different industries on the panel, so different perspectives. I think it's good to just kind of start with, understanding bigger goals with data, what these executives, what problems they're trying to solve, maybe more specifically if there's any specific use cases or, goals with data. What in your organization are you really trying to solve? We can start with Yogs.
I think we look at the data-related problems in 3 different categories. One is data is the product. So how do you create data-powered products that generates revenue directly? Second is data powers products. So we have various products where data plays a critical role in creating insights and creating additional value that helps you understand whether the product you share with your customers producing the value or not. Last but not the least is using data to make meaningful decisions. Because at the end of the day, we cannot use our own data to learn from our past, but also predict the future. What good is it? So those are the 3 categories that we focus on. Happy to talk more about those products along the way, but that's basically how we approach it.
Yeah, so my team has a very specific goal of acquiring and preparing alternative data for investment research purposes for analysts and data scientists that are not on our team. We aren't doing the analysis ourselves, but we're getting the data that these teams can use to make data-driven decisions with what stocks and what companies to buy and sell. So they'll come to us. So everything that we do is value-driven model. Well, they'll come to us with a request for some type of data or even just a thesis about some macroeconomic trend or some company-specific aspect that they want to dig more into, and they want data to help make that decision. We will help. They come to us as a centralized data solution to be able to have the technical skills and the expertise and domain expertise of what's available to be able to help them make those decisions. And first, we'll look internally with what we already have in BlackRock with some of our products, like Aladdin Data Cloud is our centralized data warehouse built with Snowflake. And then we'll also look externally to bring that into BlackRock, make it available to these investment teams as quickly as possible, and not just make it available to that specific team that requested it, but also have that feedback loop into Aladdin Data Cloud for reusability and ability to generate more value from with other teams using it. So that's a little bit about how we operate. And yeah, it's definitely a trendy and cool space to be in right now with the future of research and helping accelerate that movement within BlackRock.
So our challenges with data, basically, we're always trying to provide data that enables decision making, data that's consumable and actionable. And in healthcare, it has to be very timely. So whether we're providing this data to the emergency room physician who's encountering an emergent case that came into the emergency room, trying to treat that patient quickly, make the right decisions in a most optimal way, most cost-effective way, or the data that the nurse uses to take care of the patient on the floor, the data that the administrator needs to measure quality outcomes or look at program evaluation, clinical program evaluation, the data we need to send to our partners, whether we send the patient to a skilled nursing facility or send the patient to another hospital, or actually ultimately when we send the patient home, we need to give them all kind of, important and accurate and valid data to optimize care. So data plays basically the central role in all of the patient care areas. And so anybody who deals with data in healthcare realizes that it's really what enables healthcare. And all of the challenges with these data in healthcare, kind of go back to where the data comes from, how standard is the data, how do we manage the data, how do we govern the data, which are many topics and challenges that we can probably shed light on later. But data teams and healthcare organizations, if they lose sleep, they lose sleep over all of these issues.
So folks, from our strategy standpoint, what we are trying to drive is business innovation. We are trying to enable business innovation through self-service, driven by embedded governance. So we have a data and analytics ecosystem, which is about 98, 99% on the cloud. We cover all functions, whether you want to talk about engineering or R&D, where we are thinking about how hydrogen could be used as a fuel in terms of the climate challenges, where you look at pricing decisions in the commercial team, supply chain decisions on shop floor optimization, procurement analytics to optimize our spend, all the services optimization, resource optimization, finally financials. So we are looking at all the functions across the organization with a common framework, which enables us, the business users, to drive innovations themselves in that space. We have, across all the spectrum, we have product management, we have platform teams, governance teams, et cetera, across the board. And then we ensure that we have a strong governance layer across, okay? But the main thing is the connected data system where you linked all the functions of the business. That is where the most value of the data comes from for the business to drive innovation themselves.
Thank you. Very good perspectives. Just to piggyback a little bit, a little overview of kind of my role at TSYS. So I sit within product, so really tasked with monetizing our data, building new products and solutions from our data that we can sell. Our customers are primarily the banks. So, you know, thinking about the landscape, we're sitting on a wealth of credit card transactions, right? And we basically do analytics and data science and turn that data into insights that we can then repackage and bundle. And I think Abe touched on the timely component, right? That's really key in data, you know, providing these insights in a timely fashion so that our customers can action on that. That's really the key, right? Data without follow through and action has limited value. So digging a little deeper, we kind of touched on high-level goals and strategies we have. I think it's important we go down kind of the technology area and you know, try to understand how are you guys, you know, technology enables a lot of these data initiatives that we have. You know, cloud is a big topic. We can touch on that. But architecturally, we can start with Dan maybe at BlackRock. How are you guys organizing your data and leveraging technology today?
Yeah, great question. So our strategy for my team is we want to deliver make data available fast, number one, and number two, investor ready, which is really about quality. So doing it fast and with quality, and with a growing demand for our services and what we offer, we've had to be very innovative and nimble. And the cloud, I would say, you mentioned the cloud. The cloud has been absolutely integral for us to be able to do that. You know, number one, leveraging the cloud databases is what allows us to scale because you can throw big data in there and queries are going to be performant. You're going to have predictable pricing and transparent pricing with the cloud databases. So that's almost a given. I would also say that cloud native advanced technologies have really helped us. BlackRock is looking to get more cloud native and take advantage of these new offerings, so because it can really accelerate your journey to value. So as one specific example, our team uses Kubernetes as a core part of our infrastructure now, and it does that for data quality processing, data loading, various steps. And before we started using Kubernetes, we had very little Kubernetes expertise on the team. And if we did not have a cloud available to us, it would have been a multi-month or multi-year journey of hiring for that skill set, standing up an environment. Whereas with the cloud managed services, we can flip that switch and do our own proof of concept, as long as you have that culture and that willingness to be able to do it and demonstrate the value much quicker and accelerate your path to production. So that's just one specific example of how we leverage the cloud, and how, and just generally, it can really help you meet the demands of your stakeholders and be more nimble and allow you to experiment and innovate.
Great, thank you. Yogs, do you want to share what you're doing at Deluxe?
Of course. I think before I share the architecture that we are following, I would like to add that a lot of times each of us have to convince our organization, our compliance teams and privacy teams on why do we have to get to cloud and how are we going to protect the data. My journey between my last job and now has been, because of the same reason, we decided to go with on-prem. We created the whole ecosystem. We even created patented solution to do column level protection of the data access so we can control everything that we needed to, in a way that we could have become a data platform company, but we still did not make it a platform company. So by the time that I came to this job, all the public clouds already advanced on a lot of those things. The investments that millions and millions we made in our ecosystem is irrelevant. So the speed in which cloud is going, if we think that we can outbeat that, I don't think we are being serious about the future. So that is the premise to say why in this job, as soon as I came, the first thing that we started doing is how fast we can get to the cloud. So a lot of our revenue products are on the cloud and on its way to the cloud. And we took the approach of domain-driven data architecture to make sure that we are organizing the data in a way that we can get everything well-defined. So when you have to create product offering across multiple products for the same customer, you are not making complex queries to get there. You are able to get there faster. Then we also made the principle that we have for our platform-centric approach. We came up with a simple principle so the teams can remember. We call it C2 DSP. It stands for composable, cloud-native, data-driven, secure, and I wanted to emphasize that platform. Because often we get excited about data and shiny opportunities it presents, get there without thinking about how are you protecting the environment, how is your landing zone secured, is it PCI compliance and things like that. We serve more than 4,000 financial services institutions, 4.5 million customers. We cannot make one mistake putting all our data in cloud, and one time you compromise it, all the trust you built is gone. And recently, for third time in the row, US Newsweek recognized Deluxe as the top trusted company in the US. And we take that security seriously as well. So I keep reminding my team, my product partners, and revenue units that you can want us to go fast. We will try to go fast, but we also make sure that we protect what we are putting there for the innovation to go as well. So that's our approach. And we do have 2 different public clouds. A lot of our internal data for sales, marketing, servicing, ERP, all sits in our one of the public cloud. Then all the revenue unit is on the other public cloud. Again, we will keep evaluating, is this one cloud, multi-cloud, cross-cloud? I have no idea what the future is going to be, but at the same time, we wanted to have healthy competition between the 2 public cloud providers and finding ways to cross-mingle internal data with external data where it makes sense as well. So that has been our approach.
Thanks, Yogs. Yeah, he touches on some good points. I mean, I think we're all tasked with driving value and innovating with data, but there's always that balance, right? And I think, you know, managing risk and data governance and privacy are so critical in this space. So I'd be curious, maybe Santosh, you want to kick us off with a little bit around, you know, GE, how you guys are kind of set up for data governance and privacy. And
As I shared earlier, we are enabling business innovation through self-service, which means that we have an ecosystem, just as a context, we have an ecosystem that is used by tens of thousands of people. And you'll cringe at this, we have tens of thousands of dashboards. because instead of PowerPoint, we say use our visualization tool to communicate across. But that requires governance, okay? Whether, when you look at it, yes, we have to deliver business outcomes, but at the same time, we have to keep our organization safe. Keep our organization safe comes in two dimensions. One, from cyber security standpoint. So all the things that we need from a cyber standpoint, what governance we need to put in place. The second is more related to regulatory compliance, SOX, PII, et cetera, right? So as you think out, as I explained before, we have a very large ecosystem. The only way we could deliver governance at scale while doing self-service, I mean, we have 200 sources getting into multiple ERPs. We also have an ecosystem where business users can add their own Excels or whatever into our data lake ecosystem and deliver outcomes. So we went into the market, we saw in the Magic Quadrant in Gartner with the partners, we didn't find anybody who had a comprehensive data governance framework. Most of them were data catalog based, which is a very small piece of governance. When you look at governance, it includes obviously the catalog, but also includes usage. It includes all the platform stuff. It includes financial governance. It includes code reviews and everything that goes in to drive that governance. So that comprehensive strategy was lacking across. So we built a bunch of products to fill those gaps or cover those gaps. And we are actually monetizing those. We are talking to a software company to kind of take over that because we are not a software company. We were forced to build these products because nothing was available in the market. But today we are SOX and PII compliant. And if there is anything, I mean, SOX to ensure that every month we do a monthly closing, all the reports or results are certified. On the PII, we have multiple levels of security. And if there is anything that is a gap, we can, within 48 hours, get to know end-to-end what has happened. So if we need to communicate that. But the first thing is to prevent it, but we want to ensure that we are covering for it.
Abe, do you want to share? I think being in the healthcare space, it would be interesting to hear governance and privacy kind of in your industry, you know, some of the challenges
yes, there. Yes, thank you. And to follow up on what Santosh said, I mean, the importance of the data governance program or structure, if you want to call it, is essential to the success of optimizing the value of data. To have a data governance program truly means a lot of things. And I think many of the programs, and I think there is a high percentage of 70, 80% of data governance programs fail. It's because I think most people who manage these programs don't grasp the extent of where it goes. Data governance means that you need to solidify a structure for the data meanings, which is what the data dictionary that, or part of it is data dictionary, which Santosh alluded to. But it also governs the access to the data. Who can access what? It governs the process to request data. When people request data, how do they go about requesting what data they need? And then marrying that back to the data dictionary, what does it mean? Is that what you really need? To do that, and actually to enable that throughout the organization, you have to have a system in place to track all these requests, to prioritize them, to make sure that each request is evaluated in terms of effort, in terms of complexity, in terms of the resources that are needed to implement that. All of these factors go into this system to track them. And then all of this needs to be discussed with the businesses. So data governance committees and programs should not be IT focused or IT centric. In our case, it's really operationally driven. So we have data domain committees that are pretty much led by physicians, nurses, administrators, people who are out there dealing with the data consumption side. And they meet on a monthly basis. And the domain committees are basically divided in these categories of like clinical, quality, finance, business, marketing. And so these data committees, when they meet, they look at all the requests for data and who's asking for what and why. Because above all of this structure, there is that privacy issue, there is that data security issue. You cannot just dump patient data somewhere for somebody to use it, because data exposure in healthcare is a huge concern. And many people probably don't realize that the value of a medical record in the black market is higher than the value of a credit card. So if somebody gets a hold of the patient data, they can sell it for more than they can sell a list of credit card numbers. And so it's a huge concern. So these committees look at the process to request data, the data generation piece, and as well as the access to it in terms of who's using it, what are they doing with it, and ultimately the value that's being driven from it. We are not, I cannot call our program fully mature yet, but we've made solid progress, and would be happy to share more information. I think the program here is limited on time, but we'll be happy to share any information for anybody who would like to more.
Yeah, very good info. Appreciate you all sharing. I think some good tangible takeaways. I think to kind of close out the session, if you guys could provide, some words of wisdom around data strategy, maybe something that works well or hasn't worked well, maybe looking to provide the audience with maybe something, some more tangible stuff to take back. I'll kick it off just to make sure we're all thinking the same way. Managing a data program is complex, right? I think as a data leader, the key is showing incremental value, right? There's kind of a strategy and a vision where you want to be. What's good look like? Good takes a long time, right? So you've got to show incremental value as you go, and that gets people on board with the program. That gets you organizational support. We're often dependent on other parts of the organization. We don't necessarily have all the resources in our org, so there's an influence component, right? You've got to show other parts of the organization why they should jump on board and kind of, travel this journey with you. So that's just something I've always kind of taken away. You're not going to fix everything overnight. Pick some, incremental wins and make sure you communicate those and people are aware. So I don't know if somebody wants to provide.
You know what, I'll go ahead. I have the mic. And I don't know how much time. Do we have another 40, 45 minutes? Or no. In healthcare, it's a very exciting time. And all of you as people who deal with data and data leaders in the technology field, you're probably noticing a revolution happening with AI. I would be remiss not to mention AI. The traditional model of a patient presenting to a doctor, and they take their blood pressure, temperature, vital signs, ask them a few questions, probably run a lab, maybe an X-ray, and make a diagnosis. And the diagnosis is the basis of the treatment. You go get this medication, do this, do that. That basically hinges on the knowledge that that provider or doctor has. I mean, that's why they charge a lot of money, or some money. But think about the revolution that's happening. I mean, you can go to ChatGPT now and give them a lot of symptoms and say, hey, what's going on? And you probably don't have to pay a lot of money to get some answers. Now, is that good or bad? That's going to be up for debate. But I can see it as a beginning of a revolution. Someday down the line, people are going to look back and say, well, you had to go to the ER for a stomachache. You can't just ask Bard or OpenAI, whatever platform you use, and get the information. Our grandkids are going to look at us and say, what, you did that? Just like when we used to carry a camera and take pictures, my kids make fun of that, and they don't grasp the idea of like developing a film. So without going into too much details about this, I think this is a pivotal moment when it comes to healthcare. I think healthcare would be well advised to adopt this trend rather than try to push back on it. And I think people who deal with data probably can envision the future a lot better than others, because it's all driven by data. It's, that physician is going to have at their disposal a tool that tells them the 100,000 encounters that were most similar to this patient had this problem. It's not just the 50 patients that you saw. There will be a huge database behind it, and that will improve care for all of us and hopefully make it more affordable and help all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say it's a term that I've heard Santosh use a couple times, and that is self-service. That's been key for us. That's how you can scale your operations and really enable your users. So putting focus there, and there's a ton of different aspects to that. So one that might not get as much recognition as warranted is making sure that your end users and your data consumers have the right skill sets to be able to access the data. So I think that's one thing to point out. And we have, within BlackRock, we have a citizen developer program, a formal program that educates non-technologists on how to upskill in technical areas so that they can take advantage of self-service offerings. That's one piece. And then also on the self-service front, something we've put focus on is having the right metadata and context about the data that you're providing. And I'm not referring to like a traditional, maybe kind of boring old data catalog that no one references, but putting more relevant metadata. For example, data popularity and usage statistics, and making that easily available to consumers so that they can see, oh, these are the most popular pieces of data that I have access to. If other teams are using it, maybe it makes sense for me to experiment with it as well. So that's what I mean by that kind of metadata and context piece. But yeah, self-service has been a key lesson for us, and it's still a journey that's ongoing.
I think being part of two publicly traded companies and their data journey, the lesson that I learned is the chicken or the egg situation in data is very prominent. Data product owners and technology wants all the data to be consolidated in one place first. But the people who make investment decision want to know exactly what you are going to do before they give you even a single dollar. So how do you balance that thing? So my experience has been, I always believe fall in love with the problem first before you start to solve that problem. Even with all the chat GPT, generative AI and everything, what is going to make the big difference is the data that you have at your disposal. That is how you are going to get different results than the generic patient going to the generative AI and asking questions based on the symptom. The data that Abe and their company has is going to make it a lot more relevant versus just going to a generally available public data and going to generative AI. So solving that problem, chicken or the egg, I think is the most important thing. The way I always try to approach is, first, hold my partners accountable to define the business case clearly. Where do they see the opportunity for data? What does that overall opportunity space looks like? How much money for the company it is going to make, or is it going to help us mitigate the risk for the company? Then what I go back and do it with my team, I call it obsess over the basics, which is all about the thing that Abe and Dan and Santosh talked about. Take care of your metadata, address the lineage. You need to know who has access to the data, control that clearly, and all of those things. So I think if you answer the question of chicken or the egg for your company, and hold your partners accountable for the business case, and hold your team accountable for obsess over the basics, I have been seeing decent results in that space, so that would be my learning.
I think from our standpoint, when we look at scaling analytics in terms of delivering, we have been able to move the needle significantly on that with governance, etc. One of the things that I'll touch back on the challenge was when we spoke about governance, right? Governance has two dimensions. One is what is called as IT dimensions, which is IT governance, which is basically catalog, lineage, and all of that stuff. And then there is business governance, which has two components. One is, again, two components, which is master data management and data quality, right? What we face a big challenge is data quality. We are a business that has grown from acquisitions, and we have so many disparate applications without common data definitions, without common dimensions. That creates challenges for us when all that data flows downstream into our data lake ecosystem, and we try to make sense for it. We are doing a better job in that, but the main thing is driving data quality at source. That has been the holy grail that we have not been able to achieve. We did build a data certification framework to drive that data quality at source, but business buy-in, et cetera, on that specific piece has been a challenge that we are trying to solve for. The only last thought I will give before is that whether you look at the whole ecosystem, one thing I would suggest is that let perfect not be the enemy of good, okay? Good enough is fine, okay? So with that thought, I'll hand it back to Ken.
Thank you. Let's give the panel a round of applause. I think this was fantastic.